Okay, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Lindo. I'm the Executive Director of OTT Programming at CBC. And welcome to another one-stop business workshop entitled, How Do I Work with a Broadcaster? We're really excited about our guests, but before we introduce them, we'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. Which is, we wish to acknowledge those Indigenous nations on whose lands we live and work. And we are gathering virtually with people from across the country. And since land acknowledgements are specific to each region, we encourage each of you to visit the Native Land Digital website to identify the First Nations territories on which you are located. Today we have three fantastic guests joining us, each of whom are industry leaders representing broadcasters across Canada. The way we're going to do the session today, each will hear from each of the three presenters, and then afterwards we'll have at least 10 minutes available for Q&As, and we'll be answering those questions for the remainder of the session. So first, you're going to hear from Sam Linton, who's the head of original content at Blue Ant Media. And then immediately following her, you'll hear from Jankovic, who's the executive producer of Documentaries at TVO. And then lastly, you'll hear from Jean-Francois Obamsawin, who is the senior manager of programming for APTN. So why don't we start things off with Sam, and we'll carry on with Jane and Francois right after. Sam, you have to take yourself off mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Gabe. And I'm really happy to be here to talk to everyone about Blue Ant Media. My goal today is really to give you a headline about who we are, what we do, how we can work together. And at the end of the day, really just to say, please, if you want to follow up, I'm here. You can share my email and phone number, and the best way to build a relationship is to get on the phone and try to work together. So I look forward to hearing, can't see any of you, but I look forward to hearing from many of you. So here's our presentation. Blue Ant Media is a Canadian company that was founded in 2011. And part of a little bit confusing is that we wear many different hats. We are a broadcaster in Canada, channel operator, SVOD operator. We have a production business with production companies around the world. We're also a distributor. We also have consumer shows like the Cottage Life trade show that you can go to out at the airport center and look at the latest, composting toilets and kayaks and things like that. We also are a magazine publisher and also publish websites and YouTube channels. So now if we go to the next slide, you'll have kind of a picture of how that looks. Across the top here is the piece that I work on, which are our 8 Canadian linear channels: T&E, Cottage Life, Makeful, Smithsonian, Love Nature, BBC Earth, A-Side. We also have production houses all over the world, in Toronto, LA, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. And then that distribution business I told you about, where we are an international content distributor selling over 3,000 hours of shows around the world. So now we can go to the next slide, and I'm going to talk about how we can kind of pull all those things together, because that's one of the good things about Blue Ant Media, is that we can hopefully ignite different pieces of our business. On that Canadian linear side, with those 8 teeny small small niche channels, I commission about 100 hours of Canadian content a year across all of my brands. And we produce in many different business models. We could fully finance a show where then you as a producer get a license fee, tax credits, and a distribution advance. That's pretty rare these days, but more often than not, it's a partnership, because partnerships are key. And that means that as a broadcaster, I'm taking Canadian rights, but it's also a partnership with another broadcaster in another territory. We're also doing international treaty co-productions. It's a big piece of what we do. And we've just recently, this past year, started optioning international formats like Life Below Zero Canada that we did, and Landscape Artist of the Year for Makeful. So we can now switch to the next slide, please. Just a couple basic questions that I get asked a lot. I mean, we do encourage producers to work with our distribution arm. It's not necessary, but certainly if it can happen, it's a win-win for us. And in some cases, they may come in with a distribution advance into the financing, which is always helpful. We are a small independent broadcaster with a CMF envelope. That's an envelope from the Canadian Media Fund that we receive every year. And we try to grow that each year. So we strategically really dig into how do we spend those dollars in a way that can grow the envelope, because we are such a small broadcaster. That's a really important thing. You've probably heard Blue Ant Media has its own production companies, and we have a Canadian production company called Saloon. We're committed to working with them, but we're also committed to working with all of you and all the third-party production companies. And the thing that a lot of people don't understand that makes them feel better about this, because they might go, well, why Blue Ant's just going to give all their business to their in-house, is that we actually can't. There's a lot of regulations in our system that prevent us from doing that. So there is a very firm commitment to give a lot of our licensing dollars to external companies. So now I thought I'd just run through, if we go to the next slide, just a couple of our brands, the key ones really focus on commissioning for. And again, I look forward to you guys following up with me to dig into what makes the perfect show for these brands. T&E used to be called Travel and Escape. And about 5 years ago, we took all the travel programming off, and this shifted to a channel that is all about being scared and focuses on the paranormal. Audiences like to be scared. They really believe that there's another dimension out there. And so what they come to our brand is for the promise that they're going to get scared. If we flip the next page, you'll see a couple of our key shows. We just launched one called Hotel Paranormal, where we got Dan Aykroyd of Ghostbusters fame to narrate it. He's actually very much a believer in the paranormal. His father was, and I don't know if you guys know this, it's kind of fun. His father was one of the first ghost investigators of all time back in the 1940s, which is where the Ghostbusters franchise came from. Anyways, he's narrating our new show, Hotel Paranormal. We also have shows like Haunted Hospitals, Witches of Salem, which was really interesting. So shows that really scare the audience, which is what we want. The next slide, we'll get into Cottage Life. Really interesting brand. What a robust brand this is. Started off about 30 years ago as an Ontario-centered magazine. We then bought the magazine and turned it into a national channel. And we really figured out very quickly that we couldn't just stick the magazine on TV, that the audiences came for different things. So on TV, if we go to the next slide, you can see we actually don't have shows so much about cottages per se as other areas that we know this audience likes. So a lot of animal rescue shows like Hope for Wild. We have a lot of extreme weather, and they love to understand storms and how extreme weather and weather mysteries, like why is there a purple tornado, things like that. And then survival, a really big area for us. This is where we launched Life Below Zero Canada, which is a documentary series about people who live off the grid in the Arctic. Fabulous series, and our #1 rated series of all time. And then something like the Brick Cottage, which really speaks to that more cottagey space of DIY. And this featured a woman named Danielle Brick, who was building a passive house, which is an environmentally friendly way of building in cottage country to leave the least amount of eco footprint. That is important to talk about that show, because what that allowed us to do is roll out on all the platforms of Cottage Life, because not only is it a TV channel, it's a magazine. So she launched her show on our network, but then there was a feature in the magazine. And then the same month, she also went out to our consumer shows, which are in Edmonton, Ottawa, and Toronto, and sat on the main stage and talked to people about it. She also had a web series on our website and on our YouTube channel, and also content, just articles and things. So that's a great example of how we look for content and commissioning ideas that allow us to leverage all those pieces of our brand.
Sam, this is great. I'm wondering, just in the interest of time, if you want to just quickly touch on the last couple of channels, and then we'll go.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Great.
Yeah. So if we just go to the next two brands I wanted to talk about, one is Makeful. This is really a female skewing channel that speaks to women who love to be creative. So we look for really compelling formats and ideas of how to inspire them to be creative. Our recent hit was Landscape Artist of the Year, which was a fine art painting competition show, a lovely show hosted by Sukyin Lee. And the winner got $10,000 and their artwork to be showcased in the McMichael Gallery. So that's a really cool channel. I love working on that one. And then our next and last one I just wanted to mention was Smithsonian Channel. Of course, the Smithsonian Channel started in the US as an offshoot of the Smithsonian Institutions, which is the largest chain of museums in the world. And we are the Canadian sister channel to the American channel in Washington, DC, looking for core factual programs in these areas of aerial, engineering, ancient civilization. We're launching a brand new series called Secret Cities that looks at all the wonderful uncovered history of cities all around the world. So those are the brands, and I look forward to hearing from you. Gabe?
Thanks so much. All right, over to you, Jane. And just unmute yourself there.
You know, after all this time working at home, and we still always forget, it's never fails. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, I'm Jane Jankovic, executive producer of Documentaries at TVO. TVO is a broadcaster and a digital media company that sort of focuses its output in three major areas. We have an independent learning center that helps people get their GEDs virtually, and also provides a lot of support for curriculum-based courses from elementary school into high school. We also have TVO Kids, which goes from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's award-winning programming, all geared towards curriculum outcomes, but in really fun, wacky, animated ways. It's a terrific channel for us. And then there's Current Affairs and Documentaries, which is basically prime time, and that's where I'm responsible for a lot of the content there. So if we go to the next slide, please, Gab. So I think one of the things that can really set a commissioning editor on edge a little bit, because we get so many proposals, so many proposals, is to please find out what that broadcaster is looking for. You know, it'd be nice if we're not sort of carpet bombing everybody. And I get it. I get why you do it. I would probably do it myself, frankly. But it leaves a more lasting impression if you're sending me something and it looks like you actually have put some thought behind why this would be a good property for TVO. We focus on contemporary social issues, and I really stress the term contemporary and social issues as in an unfolding story, something that is we are able to witness in our time. That's our sweet spot. If I put this URL up there because we have all the details around the types of submissions that we look for our documentaries, whether they're commissions, acquisitions, pre-buys, one-off docs, series. You'll get more detailed information if you go onto the URL that I've put out there. So once you've determined that you think, I think this is a good project for TVO, the best thing to do, especially if we've never met, which is probably going to be most of the time, if you put together a 1 or 2 page pitch, send it via email. In the email, introduce yourself and the idea, entice me to click into the attachment. And if you can include, you know, anything about your past work, ideally any kind of visuals or demos or something that gives me a sense of how your approach to storytelling is. Maybe you just have 5 minutes of an interview with someone that you think is going to be a major character in this idea. Anything that helps me have a kind of audio visual cue about how you think and how what you're sort of hinging your pitch on, that is extremely helpful. In terms of response, we get a lot of proposals, a lot. And if we can, we usually request that you wait 6 to 8 weeks before getting a formal response. If you don't hear from us, by all means, follow up. What happens is, particularly on busy days, and this happens with all of us, you get something, you go, oh, that's kind of interesting. You flag it because you haven't got time to deal with it right then. And then, like within 2 days, it's so buried down in your email that you don't even remember to go back to look at it. So I don't get annoyed by people, following up. As long as it's not like 3 days after you send it. I also would very strongly recommend that if you are an emerging filmmaker, whether it's producer or director, to affiliate yourself with an experienced producer that has some sort of proven track record. I used to take on very green teams where both the director and producer are green. I just don't have the bandwidth to do it anymore. So I really have to insist that if you're trying to break in, you've got a great idea, you don't know how to do it, or you've had some limited success with certain kinds of storytelling being funded in a certain way, whether it's from the Arts Council or whatever, before you pitch me something, please try and get a producer attached to it, which is really hard. I understand that. And there's a whole thing that we should probably talk about in terms of how it's so important to be social and network and have your face seen and strike up conversations with people that are producers or directors or with broadcasters or distributors or something. And it's so hard. I mean, I'm an introvert. Believe me, it's the last thing. I'm a terrible schmoozer, but oh man, I push myself out there. It's hard, but you really have to do it. You have to do it. And if you can't do that, then maybe you belong in a different piece of the creative team. Maybe it's not the director or the producer that is your niche, but you really have to do it because there's lots of people who will happily jump in front of you to get the recognition that would be nice for you to get. And also, if I've seen you at something, then if you twig my memory that, oh yeah, we met at the breakthrough pitches, I was the person who pitched blah, blah, blah. I go, oh yeah, and then the red flag isn't quite as anonymous, I might make a little notation or something. So that's my advice there. So this is all in terms of the pitch. That's what I would recommend. If we go to the next thing, so this assumes now that you've gotten past the pitch, interested. I'm interested. You've got people on board that I feel, confident could help put this through. So there's two options. We either go into development, which is generally about a 10,000K license from TVO and 10,000K from the Canadian Media Fund, which all broadcasters get. And then we'll give you a period of time, or you give us a period of time through which you are able to develop your idea. And from that development, what we would expect in the development report is that you've secured access, that you know who your characters are, have some of them at least confirmed. You determine who your key creative team is going to be, who's going to be your editor, who's going to be your writer, if you have one, who's going to be your director, your producer, your associate, blah, blah. The budget that you factored out, and the finance plan, how you expect to cobble the money together to support the budget so you can make the project. So we get past development. Yay, great, let's go into production. Then what we do is we determine how much we're able to give you as a license. Now, a license is a trigger when you're working with TVO. It's rarely the entire amount of money that you need, particularly the way budgets are growing. So our licenses are usually between 60 and 80K for a TVO license. And then we have the option of giving up to 49 to 69% of your budget for the Canadian Media Fund. We don't do that as a general rule because there's other ways of patchwork, putting your budget together. And I'm also very mindful that I want to spread the money and spread the love, so to speak, across a lot of people in the community. So it's not just, I could work with the same 4 people every year and have a total primetime filled, and it'd be a lot easier. But I think as a public broadcasters, it's kind of a responsibility to nurture the community and make sure that there are opportunities for different kinds of filmmakers and different types of stories to be made. So I'm not going to give you all your money because I know that if as a producer, if you hoof it a little bit, you're going to find some other money somewhere. And so that's kind of how we move forward. So it's unlikely you're going to get 49 to 69% from the CMF envelope, but we can go up to that amount. What we get in exchange then is we get a license for 6 years to broadcast and stream your documentary. And the first 24 months are exclusive to TVO. The budgets in general are usually between $400,000 and $500,000 for one-offs. Series might be around $1 million or more, again, depending on how many partners you have in them. We also do treaty co-pros, and we also get a lot of international money that isn't necessarily a treaty co-pro, but there might be a broadcaster in another country who really likes the idea, and it's of course cheaper for them if they buy it from someone, but then they get their exclusivity within their country. There's lots of ways to get sort of patchwork financing to fill out your budget. It's not easy, but it's there. So we do rely increasingly, if you want a budget particularly higher than $400,000 or $500,000, it is going to require you going around to other broadcasters, distributors, et cetera, to try and get some money. There's also a lot of funds connected to the Canadian Media Fund that you may be eligible for, whether it's English language or a language fund, an Aboriginal fund. There are different sort of subcategories that you're able to apply for. And again, that's where you need a seasoned and experienced producer, because they know where those pools of money are, and they'll be able to help trigger to getting some of that money. And it's our license that will help the trigger that allows the producer to then go and get that money. So it's all kind of connected.
Jane, I'm just, we only
done?
have a few minutes left.
Okay, then I'm done. I'm done. We sort of expect to turn around in about 18 months, and we don't yet commission shorts. But again, just the URL at the bottom there will give you a much better understanding of the details of the kinds of things that we're looking for and how to go about making us aware of your project.
Thanks so much. And these materials will be submitted, circulated afterwards for those who weren't able to take all those notes. Jean-Francois, please take it away.
Hey, thank you. Jean-Francois Bamsawin, 10 years with the Aboriginal People Television Network, well known as APTN. The APTN, it's a network that has been established by Indigenous people for the Indigenous population mainly. So we've been in the business for 20 years now. We're a small broadcaster and a national broadcaster. We have 4 feeds, and we do have also APTN Lumi. So will you please move to the second slides, please? So the mission is basically to develop and commission acquires distinctive Indigenous content, reflecting pride and heritage. It's also enabling Indigenous people to share their stories and convey them to a domestic international audience. The priority of APTN is where the next sentence, we're broadcasting in English and French and Indigenous languages. When among the Indigenous are Inuktitut, Cree, Mohawk, Mi'kmaq, Haida, Maliseets, and on and on and on. There are multiple Indigenous language on the continent, and they are alive in Canada. And one of the mandate of the network is to make this language accessible to our population and also for the public in Canada. Another great aspect of APTN is what you see on screen. It's 75 Canadian content. What are with original programming, first windows, second windows, and acquisition. So what are we offering at APTN to our viewers is a lot of documentary series, children and youth programming, music, dance and variety, drama, lifestyle, reality, sport and interactives, digital media content, and we accept also talk show proposals. So APTN was established 25 years ago because of a lack of Indigenous key creative and the television business. So 25 years later, we do have a community of producers who are Indigenous. They are Inuit, First Nation, or Métis. And to work with APTN, the producer must be First Nation, Métis, or Inuit, and own at 51% the production company. So that's for our projects and first windows. So if you like to work with APTN and you like to pitch to APTN, we definitely suggest you or your creative team to connect with Indigenous producers and come and establish a partnership with them to work with us. Or if you are Indigenous, well, as it would be great also to connect. Well, you connect with your environment, with your senior producers. So it's quite unique business model. And the best way to find out about the model would be to connect with the regional managers. So if you can move to the next slides, you'll see that we are the programming team is spread on Canada. So we have Deborah, who is out of the Western region, who connect with the producers from British Columbia, Alberta, and Yukon. Central region is with Shelley McDougall, and Eastern region is with Sylvain Levesque. So this way, our producers, our creative team can contact the people in their regions. And the way that we work with requests for proposals. So the best way to find out what's happening and what we're looking for at APTN is to look at the request for proposals. That we have different one. We have one for series for the Indigenous program at CMF that usually launch late in the fall. We do have a request for proposal for web series. We request proposals for feature film as well. And so we multiple times during the years, we connect with our producers and we ask them to pitch projects. And a pitch with APTN is a one pager. It's a phone call, it's an email, it's to touch base, it's to, it's basically making sure that we get to know each other, making sure that we, as Jane and as Sam said earlier, we're in a relationship where relationship is key. It's important that we have face-to-face meeting time to time. APTN is always actively taking part of pitch session. Would it be with Imaginative? Would it be at the Banff Film Festival? We are there. The regional managers take time to sit down and provide some feedback on the spot on the projects to indicate if there is an interest or not. Our mandate is to share stories of our people, so the first people of the land. So if you have a project that has that touched the team, yes, please contact one of the regional manager. It may be for first windows, maybe second windows. APTN is a national network, but it's also have a small resources. So we're looking forward to connect to work with other broadcaster. We did it in the past. We're doing it right now. It would be with CBC, with TVO. We are engaging the network and working with other partners to make your projects on screen. And we do receive a lot of application, a lot of requests. And us as well, we require 8 to 10 weeks to get back to you to formally decline or accept the pitch. And we are so supporting your team to develop your project with us, so we can both of us provide some notes, and then you can align your ideas, your projects. We have CMF envelopes. You can look at the CMF website to see which category, what genre is popular, but I'll tell you right away, children and youth is a great way to connect with the network, such as documentary as well. So on the last page, on the last slides that I like to show you, it's how to get in touch with APTN. Of course, if you connect with the network, you should try to watch our screen and see what we do right now, and go see the credit lines. It's a great source of information in the business to know who does what. And if you like the style of a director, well, why not getting in touch with that director? It is possible to do that. That's why we offer a show online. And also we have our latest, it's APTN Lumi, which is the APTN OTT, which is offer programs that have been on the APTN, and also programs specific to Lumi as well. And yeah, the APTN website offers great tools, great information for your team to look in. And don't be shy, give a call, send an emails, and then we send an email if you didn't get back from us 5 days after, 7 days after. It's important to maintain communication and also understand that that we are a small team, so we do have a lot of the requests, but we'll get back to you. And we appreciate having a discussion and contact with the community. That's where we work together as a collaboration approach. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to go a little bit beyond 2:30 just to get to some of these questions. And so I'm going to ask that the responses are as short as possible. But one of the first questions that we have here is just around collaboration with other broadcasters, you know, is there an opportunity to work collaboratively across all of your organizations? Or is there exclusivity when somebody is pitching one project to one of you? Go ahead, Jane. You have to unmute yourself there.
Jesus. Oh, yes. Yes, we collaborate quite a bit. In fact, we have currently, I was just 2 hours this morning with APTN, you know, going through a series that we're doing called Unsettled, and we're doing another doc with them. We've done 2 other series with APTN, actually. We buy a lot from Blue Ant. I don't think we've co-produced with Blue Ant, but we buy a lot from Blue Ant. So yeah, and we are often, hey, have you checked out Knowledge? You know, maybe they'll come in for a little bit on this, or have you thought about doing a French version of it? Because then you might be able to go to Canal Day. Like, we're always looking for the smaller, because we don't want to destroy each other's footprint, right? But there are ways where sometimes when the channels are so specialized that they have, even if they're national, they have a smaller footprint. They don't mind us coming on board because we're regional, at least in the broadcast way. And it just all adds money to the pool and offers, you know, more opportunities to, and more strength when you're putting things like a Rogers application in for a grant, or a theatrical grant, or a hot dog grant, or whatever. You know, the more endorsement you have, the better it is for your project to actually get even more money for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, Jane. And I wouldn't worry for the emerging producers out there. I wouldn't worry about how much people pay and the windowing and exclusivity. I think we can actually help you figure that out, because often it's proportionate. Your rights and your exclusivity is proportionate to how much you pay. So don't worry about that. But pitch everybody, pitch in the spirit of collaboration and partnership, and we'll help you get there.
Great. Another question is around different formats. I don't know if these were covered, but do you work with independent producers to create shorts for kids and youth programming? And secondly, is there a feature-length documentary opportunity for any of your brands?
I'll just say not for me. So neither one of those for me.
In terms of documentaries, we usually finance a feature version, but we also require a 1-hour version to accompany that. That allows us, so we can premiere with the feature. And that's often what filmmakers will like to do anyway, because they want to see if they can get into a festival circuit and all that kind of stuff. So we give them the opportunity to do that, but in compensation, we also then need a 1-hour that we can, you know, broadcast and schedule more clearly. Kids in shorts, we do commission, I don't, but, you know, we commission shorts at TVO, but they're usually animated shorts. They're not like live action shorts, usually.
Great. And with Jean-Francois, are there any shorts as well?
We do ask shorts, not for children and youth, as part of one of our RFPs yearly. So it's for first windows. So usually the producer must be Aboriginal in his company as well, as other first window projects. We also have a request for proposal for feature films and development and production that usually come shared during the June.
Thank you. There's been a number of questions that are different but similar in that they're asking about opportunities for diverse creators to have their projects pitched. And, you know, are there examples, or is that something that you're looking for? Are you open to taking projects from diverse creators that in one instance, we're talking about immigrant women who are new to the country, who are storytellers? Is there a fit in your programming strategies to be inclusive of these diverse stories?
Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, okay.
I've got.
Yeah, absolutely. We are committed to that. And I just came out of a meeting today to talk about more ways to push forward in that. And we need to do more. My channels, for the most part, are commercial channels. And so they're driven by ratings and selling ads, and there's some challenges with that. So what I want to do, Life Below Zero Canada is a perfect example of how we succeeded, because we are committed to telling diverse stories and working with diverse creators. But it came out in the most organic way. This was a documentary series about people who live in the Arctic off the grid. So we featured 2 Indigenous characters, which just, and you ended up learning so much about their lives and their culture and their ancestry and their modern day challenges in the most organic way. The storytelling was beautiful. It was elegant. It just came out in the drama and the action of the premise of the show. So I think that's what we're focusing on. We even took it then, if you look at more of a reality approach that we did with Landscape Artist of the Year, where fine art painters competed for this prize and this award. We had, an Indigenous painter who actually did watercolor, but then her special talent was that because she was from Cree background, she actually wove and beaded and porcupine quills into the canvas of her paintings, again, in the larger context of a Canadian painting competition show. So these stories all came out very, very organically, and that's the way we're focusing on it.
At TVO, we're very conscious about, we commission quite a few films that are about diverse stories. Where we need to put more emphasis in is having diverse stories told by diverse filmmakers. So we're conscious of that, and we have, that's our plan every year. And I think especially in the last couple of years, we've realized, yeah, we think we've got a pretty good track record, but then we realize, yeah, but it's all kind of like white guys, telling these stories. So we are aware that we need to be more conscious of that, and we are actively looking for those kinds of stories. On the current affairs side, there's been a lot of work on the agenda with Steve Paikin of hiring Indigenous producers regionally around the province to be able to report on stories in their community, whether they're Indigenous or not. We've also gotten grants and things from like Google, and that allows us to hire Indigenous video producers, reporters, writers, etc. But obviously, as Sam says, there's still work to be done, and we have projects that right now are but with diverse filmmakers about diverse topics. But it would be nice if we could do more, for sure.
I agree. I totally agree, Jane. And I think more on that point, yes, diverse topics, but I really want to think about also increasing the storytelling, the behind the scenes. When we're staffing up for a show, the talent pool often looks white. And I would like to work harder and figure out ways of working harder to encourage producers to hire more diverse, from more diverse communities, and even going further and getting the message out about the needs of the community, even, during the colleges or high school level, attracting people from those communities to our business.
So we only have time for really one more question, but I'll ask it, and if each of you could answer, that would be really fantastic. And this is really around, what are the best ways to establish yourself in the industry as a producer, as a creator, and what would be your tips for success that you would give to everyone on the call?
I think I kind of, talked a little bit about that, which is about just, sucking up your courage and getting out there to become recognized and known, participating, volunteering, whatever it takes to be part of projects that are going on in the interests of the film community. Yeah, it's hard, but and then also just sort of doing shorts. I mean, now I sometimes get stuff and people put their shorts up on YouTube. Well, okay, is that a big endorsement or not? I don't know, but at least it gives me some place to look to see what kinds of things that person's interested in, what their talent is, etc. Yeah, it is kind of like being around and trying to hook yourself onto someone who will get the time consideration. That will be a little easier for that established producer, or at least more established producer than who you are at the time. But those are all like relationships. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, the relationship piece is challenging. I think you got to go with what you're passionate about. I know it sounds trite, but that's your only way in. Find the channel, find the type of storytelling, find the story that you're passionate about. Because ultimately, Jean-Francois, Jane, and myself, we want to work with people who are just addicted to this one story and to telling this. That goes a long way. So if you're a genre enthusiast and you want to do a horror film, like, go for that. If you just love Reno shows, go for that. If you're into social documentaries, like, just, it's about almost like a good therapy session. Like, dig deep into yourself, figure out what turns your crank, and ultimately that's your jumping off point for building your reputation in this business. Then find other like-minded people who share that passion. So connect with the established producer who is into the home and garden, Reno shows, or the great doc producers who have a track record. I think follow the passion, then connect to other like-minded, passionate people in that field, and then that will help.
Yeah, well, I think believe in yourself, believe in your projects, believe in what you're doing. Passion is a key word. I will not repeat what has been said. I totally agree with that. And I will say participate in these type of webinar, participate in session, keep learning, gather yourself with someone who have knowledge that's also quite perfectionist as you are, and don't take no as an answer. If you really want to believe in your projects, well, you'll find a way to make it happen. Sometimes we will also recommend to our collaborators to start small. If you have a feature film, a one-off doc, a web series, they are smaller budget, but then you can establish a relationship with networks. So then we get to know each other. Then we get to know how we can work together at a smaller scale. So before convincing us to invest a lot of money or time in a project, I would definitely support your team to believe, participate, and start small, and then to surprise us. We like crazy ideas. We like being surprised and being down on our chairs and say, this is impossible. How can you do this? And you believe, pitch us and make into your enthusiasm about your projects and your eyes and the way you communicate with us. And then you'll see that, that we might be closer to your project than you think.
Thank you all so much.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Jane.
No, I was just going to say that, and sometimes you can't expect to get the gold ring, on your first time out there. I took a lot of really crappy jobs for crappy pay for a long time before I finally sort of got into a place where I could settle and do what I think was my best work. And that was, as much as I hated those years, I did all that, but it was like, it allowed me to meet with that person, and that person, I got to meet that person, and oh, somebody thought of me for this other crappy job, but
that's a really good point, because you don't have to be all of a sudden the owner of the company, the director, the producer. As long as you're swimming in the pool, it's all good experience, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. As long as you're in a constant, there's like that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours, as long as you're in that pool where content is constantly being made. Maybe you're in post-production, but you see how series continue to get made or one-offs are delivered around the world. All of that is valuable experience. Don't get hung up on having to be, like Jane says, the gold ring, lead primary creative on a project.
Thank you all. This is such great advice, and we could probably talk about this for another hour or two, but we're going to end it here. Jean-Francois, thank you so much. Sam and Jane, really appreciate the time you took today, and for everyone who was tuning in, thank you very much. And I believe your next session tomorrow is at the same time, 2 p.m., and we look forward to you joining us then. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.